Welcome back to Afternoon Garage. I know what you're thinking. What's with the blue? I think you're going to be excited about what's going to come up next. This here is my 1975 Pontiac Firebird. Started out its life as an Esprit, but now it's much more than that. With any car, there's usually a good backstory, and this car has a really good one. I'm going to share with you exactly how I became in possession of this car, and how it ended up this way. It all starts about 15 years ago when I was dating this girl. Let's call her Sally. She worked at a few different restaurants as waitress and a bartender. She had a bad gambling habit. Would take all the tip money from the night and put it back into the poker machine. She had a little bit of a drinking problem too, so that would keep her out all night. And she frequently came home after a really hard night at work owing people money because of her gambling addiction. She liked cars. When she was in high school, she had a 1977 Firebird Trans Am with a 400 in it. Near as I could tell, it was maybe a Formula, maybe a Trans Am. I don't know, but it did have the bigger block V8 in it. I frequently shop Craigslist for cars, as I do, and I came across this car right here. Somebody had started a restoration on this car, taken it pretty much apart, taken the engine out, the transmission out, and the interior was left in there, but everything was in boxes. The ad said the car was painted, and all it needed to be was reassembled. I've seen lots of different second-gen Camaros and Firebirds in my life, and I know that most of them suffer from rust issues. Even here in the Northwest, where you have no salt on the roads, most all of these I've seen either had rusted subframes or crumbling quarter panels or something of that nature. Usually they'd rust out in the front fenders here, where water would collect. And he assured me that this car didn't have any of those problems. Price was right. It was only about $3,000. It was a Spree trim, so it had a 350 and a turbo 350 transmission, 3-speed. So, get down the road, probably get out of its own way, but not sure what kind of horsepower rating a 350 Pontiac would have, but, somewhere around 200. And then I came up with a brilliant plan. I figured this girl that I knew, she never had any long-term goals, and her short-term goals were pretty much hitting the lottery, and that just didn't happen for her. So I came up with a brilliant, foolproof plan to make her come home at night and give her something to look forward to. After all, I couldn't exactly remind her to come back to the house at night and bring all our money with her. So I decided to give her an incentive, something to come home after work for. So that's when I told her I'd purchase the car, finish the car, and give it to her. She'd stop wasting all that money in the poker machines and change her life. It was an incentive car, like I like to call it. I set up an appointment to see the car, which was in a storage unit about 45 minutes away. The guy had 2 of everything. He had 2 engines, 2 transmissions, 2 alternators, 2 starters. There was just 2 of everything. And I think what he planned on doing is he was sourcing these parts out throughout the years, and I guess he was going to try to use the storage unit to work on the car. What happened with him was he went out to the storage unit to work on the car, jacked the car up, was doing something underneath it, and the car fell on him. His family caught wind of that. They didn't want him working on the car anymore, so then they forced him to sell it. I arranged a visit, and I was met by his sister and her partner. They were going to help me load up the car. Unfortunately, there wasn't any negotiation at that point because he wasn't even there to sell me the car. And in fact, I'd called him on the phone and I told him, hey, there's a little bit of rust underneath the frame here, the subframe. Maybe we can do something. He wasn't going to budge at all, but I knew I had a good deal, so I paid him the entire amount. His bargaining chip was, hey, I put a fresh coat of paint on the car and made it all straight. All you have to do is put it back together. However, he forgot a key point of this car was a powder blue color when it was new, and he didn't paint any of the door jambs. He didn't paint any of the hood. He didn't paint anything other than just have somebody shoot the outside of the car. You could see where it was blue on the inside of the door, so I knew that, hey, it had to be repainted again in order to get that right. But that's okay. I accepted that. So in addition to the nasty baby blue color that was in the jams here, the interior was also white. Guess that was a trendy thing back in 1975. I think that also looks terrible. So I knew I had to change that. So I went to the local U-Haul in the town and I rented an auto transport. I was really lucky that they actually had one of those things because sometimes those things are really hard to get a hold of. What I did was I went in, gave them a deposit. Not sure whether I bought insurance or not, but it didn't really matter because I was only pulling the car 45 minutes away. At that point, U-Haul hitched the trailer up to my truck. I was on my way back to the storage unit to pick up the car. There was no engine or transmission in this car, like I say, so there was no real way to get it up in the trailer. But there were 4 people, there were 4 of us, so we could easily push it up onto the trailer. We all get behind the car and we start to push. We pushed it up, got it halfway up the ramps. The tongue came off the ball, went forward into my tailgate. Apparently, the geniuses at U-Haul didn't know that you had to tighten that ball down, clamp that ball into the socket. So, trailer came off. At which point, I then called them up. They claimed no responsibility, of course, and there's nothing I could do but repair my own tailgate. Really, I consider myself lucky, because this trailer could have come off at any time at highway speeds and been a really ugly situation later on down the road. I returned the next day to load up the rest of the boxes and the 2 engines that were on engine stands. Got the car home and in the driveway. I must say it looked pretty good. It was sporting some 80s wheels and the tires were good, but it needs some front end parts. But overall, it was in great shape, pretty much rust free. I was happy with it. I had to finish some other project before I started a big project like this. I got a call about a week later from the seller. He said, "You know what you have. I need to get that back. And if I don't, I'll come get it myself." And then he hung up the phone. I said, "Oh, that's funny. What did he want? Was there something that he put in there?" Well, right away, I started tearing through boxes. I even opened up things just to find out what was it. Was there money in there? Was there jewelry? Was there drugs? I don't know. I got a call a day later from the sister who said, "Oh yes, if he calls, just ignore him. It's going to be okay. He won't come bother you. Just hang up the phone." So I thought it was kind of a really weird thing. I kind of got into a middle of a dispute with family members. But what a weird thing to have happen after you purchase a car. To this day, I always wonder what that guy hid in those boxes. Anyway, back to my girlfriend. Unfortunately for her, she lasted 5 days. 5 days. Went out on a binge, didn't come back for another week. And so I figured, you know what? I'm gonna have to build the car myself. I knew I'd be able to get my money back out of the car, or I would have never bought it. It was just gonna take a lot of extra work, a lot of extra labor, and I really hadn't planned for another project like this one. But I was stuck with it. She eventually took herself and her injections, moved to another state. Fast forward 8.5 years. I still have the car, and still have many projects that I kept on putting in front of that car. And in fact, I really didn't even know I had it anymore. I came up with anything I could to avoid putting this thing back together. So I didn't really have the interest in it. Once again, I purchased a car from somebody else as an incentive. It didn't work out, so it really wasn't my thing. However, I am a Pontiac guy. So I decided to build up the car rather than sell it. One day, while finding another project to put in front of this car, I decided to do the fence on the side of the property. Took the fence panels off and I discovered that there was a Firebird back there. I almost completely forgot about it. There it was, sitting there just kind of growing algae, getting dirty, but it was really kind of staying dry. So I was really happy when I went back and actually looked at it. It was in pretty good shape. So I knew the time had come to pull the car out. So I hitched it up to the truck and I yanked it out into the driveway where it was 8.5 years ago. So I figured I'd start by pressure washing the exterior. Man, this thing was dirty. Took a bit, 4,000 PSI to get the job done. I actually expected there to be some kind of rust or rot somewhere, but the more I uncovered, the more I realized this car was going to be a good candidate for restoration. As I was pressure washing, I was thinking about what I was going to do with the car. Originally, I had planned to restore the car with many parts I had received with the car. The more I blasted on this car, the more I could see this car was becoming something else much, much more. It would need new paint, interior, some framework. You can see the engine compartment has started to rust a bit. I got the car washed. I figured I'd take some time to decide what I should do with the car. Should I return it back to the original blue that it was with the white interior? Should I keep it black, which by the way isn't a factory color for a 1975 Firebird, and make it my own? I decided to sacrifice originality and build a resto mod. After all, this was in a Spree trim, not a low mileage Super Duty or Trans Am, something that was desirable. This included scrapping almost all the parts that he originally collected for this car and purchasing new ones to put on to make it something really spectacular. Life is full of choices. Making the right one or the wrong one can be the difference in living a productive, comfortable life, or flushing your life down the toilet for some instant good feeling that isn't going to last long term and it's not going to make for a good life. If you have problems in life and someone offers to help, accept the help from them. Do what you say you're going to do and keep doing it every single day. In this case, I had to pick up the pieces from somebody's bad life choices. I don't regret it a bit. So next week, I'm going to go talk about everything that I put into this car to build the car. The engine, the transmission, the suspension, and all kinds of other different things. Stay safe.